Finally back with the full panel. Up next on Sports Bar. So we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be covering a wide variety of sports, so let's just get right down to it. Earlier this week, or last week, on Monday night, right after our show pretty much, we saw Villanova just come back and beat North Carolina at the end of the game. So let's just talk about that real fast. Let's say, what do you guys think really happened to let Villanova come back? Because UNC was winning at the half. What do you think it was that sort of pulled them through to the end?
It was a lot of a lack of consistency, I think, because while they were up
on
UNC's part, because I mean, while they were up at several points in the game, they were also down by 10 points, 15 points, and I think it might have hit 20 points at one point during the game. I mean, it really.
They were down by 15.
Were they not down by that? Oh, I thought they were down by
They
more
were
than
down
that.
by, I think maybe 8. That was bad.
Okay, they were still though. They were down. It hit it went over 10 at least once.
The deficit felt much larger than it was, considering that Carolina just couldn't hit anything for as long as
It felt like they were going for. It was either feast or famine. Like they were either hitting everything and they were going on crazy runs and just one after the next, or they were hitting nothing.
Whereas Villanova was just hitting almost everything.
Yeah, they were more consistent. Whether they might not have been shooting as many times, over the course of, they might have gotten one basket in for every 3 shots that UNC was taking, but UNC was still only getting one in. They were just taking an incredible number of shots during parts of it. So I feel like a lot of it was just the fact that UNC couldn't keep up everything. Like they were just going through very much highs and lows and getting to the point where they were either, getting Page the ball and he was hitting every 3 on the court, or they didn't shoot anything for like 6 minutes. So it felt like they just couldn't keep up the intensity the whole time.
I think Villanova just putting pressure on UNC was a big portion of that. I noticed when I was watching it, UNC, they played a little bit of lackadaisical defense. Like, they didn't want them to get down in the paint, which gave them a lot of open shots, whereas Villanova was on them like glue.
Yeah.
I'm salty. I'm very biased.
You sound salty.
There's a lot of things about that game. I mentioned before we started the show that I felt like the refs were, choking on their whistles, in large part, particularly on one end of the floor. And I'm generally not one to blame a loss on the referees, and I'm still not blaming the loss on the referees, but that certainly didn't help Carolina's case. When Page hit that 3 to tie the game, there was a moment there where I felt like, that was so unlikely that maybe it's kind of meant to be kind of thing. I was worried that they left, 5 seconds on the clock. I mean, that's a lot. That's an eternity in basketball. To your point, Robin, Villanova did put on, a full court press during large portions of the game, where, normally that plays into Carolina's hand, because normally Carolina breaks the press.
Use their bigs.
And 1-2 passes, you got to lay up on the other end of the floor. Generally that's not a very good way. That's not a very smart way to play Carolina defensively. But I thought Britt in portions of that game kind of played scared. I didn't feel like he did not break the press nearly with as much confidence as Joel Berry did.
Can't even remember Britt in the game.
Yeah. Berry did a very good job of breaking the press. When he was in there, he made sure he beat his first man. He would look, had his head up. He was looking to make the pass. And generally, the offense was clicking at that moment in time. An interesting side note, in that game, you had Britt's, adopted brother playing for Villanova. That's insane. So, I kind of hate it for Nate Britt, too. Just, it's like, hey, you lost to your adopted brother in the national championship game.
His brother.
But, I don't know. It hurts because, Carolina, they're losing Page, they're losing Johnson. They'll lose Joel James, who I don't think a lot of people really understand, like how important Joel is. But great minutes
Great
in my
bench,
opinion.
bench minutes
He-
for sure.
Yeah, he played very well against Syracuse, I thought.
It's hard when you have a bench of that magnitude with
Yeah.
Page and them to look back on those guys, but they're still important.
They've had
And-
depth all year, though.
Yeah.
They have, and there is some possibility that Joel Berry might go pro. I don't think he's
I don't think
completely
so. I
leaning
would
that
think
way,
another
but
year.
I mean, there has been
Well,
speculation.
he already said that he's going to stay.
Well, he did right after the national championship game, and then he detracted that statement.
Oh,
Yeah, he
So
pulled it
it's
back.
up in the
so
air again.
Okay.
So
He's waiting to see if he hears anything.
we'll see. But it was
Yeah.
a terrific game. One for the ages.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
certainly tops. As far as like dramatic national championship games, I think Villanova winning this game on that shot is right
Yeah.
up there with Jordan against Georgetown and
Yeah.
Leitner.
And actually, yeah, you were talking about the Marcus Page shot, which if that had tied it up and gone in, that probably would have been SportsBar's play of the week. But instead, we have to go with that last second
get to
Villanova
watch it again.
shot. Yeah, we have to watch that. For all of you that didn't see it or haven't seen it on social media, here it is.
Well, technical difficulties.
So this is where, okay. So they passed it in. Now they did a pretty good job guarding him, but that.
Well, I mean,
Man,
they did rule number one right there, which is you have to. I mean, because there is
Guard the guy with the ball.
There's 2 seconds left. I mean, he could still hypothetically have gotten to the rim.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you force them into a three. I mean, they didn't need a three,
but you force them and hope that percentages take over.
Where that handoff pass was, Hicks kind of got caught under that screen, and it was a terrific shot.
There's nothing you can do about it.
No.
Honestly, I think we should just relish in the fact that this is definitely one of the greatest title games that we've ever watched.
Yeah.
And we just have a lot of history going on in this tournament too.
That's
So,
how the game's
yeah.
supposed to be played. That's what you're
Exactly.
supposed to see in the championship.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was watching it. I was really disappointed that UNC lost, but man, that was a great game.
It was.
It's the kind of end of a game where you're going, wow, my team lost, but wow, did you see that shot?
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah, I was half
it sucks,
disappointed, half just amazed. Like,
Yeah.
wow, that went in. But all right, so yeah, that was the end of that. We'll get around to NCAA stuff when that pops up again next year. Well, Travis will. You'll be the only returning one. But
we'll talk about how Kentucky and Duke have ridiculously good recruiting classes, and how
they'll just leave
definitely
again.
be the way too early preseason top 25
Yes,
number
yeah.
one favorites.
But let's go ahead and shift gears over on to the NBA. Steph Curry and the Warriors just beat the Spurs at home, ending the Spurs home game winning streak, and also tying the Bulls record for most wins in a season. The Warriors get their next win, they'll have 73 and they'll have the record. So that game right there, Warriors 92, Spurs 86 is our score of the week. So if we could just pull that up real fast, because I mean
It's history.
that's crazy. One record being stopped, one record being tied. Moving on to the next thing, and it's crazy. And the Warriors coach was actually on both teams. He was on the Bulls team when that happened. Now he's coaching the Warriors. So that's pretty incredible, just to have that on your resume. But
I am so sick and tired of talking.
You
about
are
this.
sick of it. You said it last show.
My God. I mean, listen, it is certain. It is history. Golden State. I'm rooting for Golden State. Frankly, I mean, I think I tend to, to like historical moments in sports. But it's killing me, man. I am so looking forward to the playoffs because the playoffs are going to be, I think, historically great.
For sure.
Particularly in the Western Conference. I think the playoffs are going to be
Honestly,
insane.
I think the East has got it too,
And
man.
the East is certainly like, I mean, as a Hornets fan, I'm super excited that they're
Overall, the whole
12 games
league
over
is looking
500.
better than I feel like they do on average.
Yeah,
But at this point in the year.
Yeah, but I was probably rooting for San Antonio last night.
Just so we can't talk about it? Or?
Well, I mean,
honestly, I would have rather had the Spurs continue their home game win streak than have the Warriors tie this record and stuff. But it happened, and so we have to give them the.
you have to give them their due or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just that the comparison it keeps rehashing the comparison between the two,
Yeah.
and I just really don't think there is a comparison there because the league was different, and they're never going to play each other, so it's a non-issue.
I mean, I wouldn't compare Curry and Thompson to Jordan and Pippen at all.
No,
I just wouldn't do that. But I mean, the fact that they are winning these games in what y'all were just saying, like this season where most of the NBA is actually looking really good. I mean, it's something to be proud of.
We'll have to check out how they play against the Memphis Grizzlies, because they were having trouble with the Memphis Grizzlies last time they played them, and maybe Vince Carter will be
Speaking of UNC.
old Vince Carter again.
Vince Sanity is going to drop some buckets on Golden
That
State.
would be great. And I think the playoffs will be something to watch this year. And I'm really looking forward to two matchups. I like the Heat versus the Celtics in the playoffs. And what was the other one? I think it's Toronto and the Pacers. I like those. I like those two matchups a lot in the East. Besides, the West will always be a good show for the playoffs at least, but the East is usually kind of lackluster.
No, you're right. This year, I think it'll be interesting, more interesting, I guess. I mean, the playoffs are always a semi-level of interesting, but I think that we'll see a better overall round.
I'll watch the first round, maybe.
It's a lot of games to watch. You got to be pretty dedicated.
I mean, if the standings hold as they are now and Hawks play the Hornets, that's going to be an interesting series. The Hornets have had kind of mixed success against the Hawks this year, but the Hawks are a franchise. Yeah, I mean, the Hawks are a franchise where I guess you would say Paul Millsap is their you need a bucket, give him the ball kind of guy. But I see Kemba Walker as a better closer than Paul Millsap. And I feel like in the playoffs particularly, it's those kind of players that really make a difference. So I think
Kemba.
Yeah. So for the sake of Charlotte, and maybe to help ease my basketball woes this season, I would like to see the Hornets do well against the Hawks. But.
Yeah. And now you were talking about the Celtics Heat game, and Travis actually before the show brought up that in 2003 on this day, the Miami Heat retired Michael Jordan's number, even though Jordan never played for them. And so that's why when LeBron went over to the Heat, he couldn't have his 23, so he just went with his USA number of 6. And I just don't get that. But
well, if we are going to make that comparison against for like Jordan and Curry, and obviously Curry's still early on in his career, but I don't foresee anyone retiring, Curry's number.
No, not yet.
I mean, of that, I just feel like Jordan is always going to have more reverence
for sure
over Curry, and I don't know if it was just because of the period or just because of what Jordan meant to basketball at the time. But like you said, I mean, he never even played for the franchise, and the league hasn't retired Jordan's number, which I actually think is a little silly.
That doesn't make sense.
To me, every time I watch professional basketball and even college basketball, it's a little unsettling.
I don't know. Retiring a number through all teams in a sport, I think is kind of too much. But when you think of Michael Jordan, it's Michael Jordan.
It's more comes down to the fact, and you made the we shouldn't make a Steph Curry comparison, but Curry's a good player, a very, very good player. Michael Jordan was basketball at that time. People who knew nothing about basketball, who couldn't give it the time of day, knew Michael Jordan, knew his number. Like, I mean, I have friends who I don't think have ever watched a basketball game who own Michael Jordan jerseys and that kind of thing. Like, that's a level of.
It's like a household name.
Yeah, that's a level of
there's people
power that people don't have.
Basketball and they don't know Curry.
Well,
No, but like Jordan.
He's getting there. I think he could get there, but not right now.
The NBA was looking for at the moment, or at that time, to replace. Okay, so who is going to be because Magic and Bird, resurrected the NBA from frankly. Obscurity.
Yes.
So they pushed the NBA, into the forefront, of American society, and both those guys was kind of trailing to the end of their careers, and they're like, who's going to be this guy? And that was why, Kobe was so I wouldn't say embraced, but I mean, so many people made that comparison between Jordan and Kobe.
It's because they needed someone to fill that spot.
Yeah, who's going to be the next Jordan?
Void.
Yeah.
And I think to a certain degree. Maybe outside of Los Angeles, people never embraced Kobe the way people embraced Jordan. Hence, when LeBron came into the league, everyone wanted him to be the next Jordan because people felt that, frankly, Kobe was kind of a jerk.
And,
Somebody wants to-
LeBron even wore the 23.
And LeBron
at
wore
Cleveland, so-
23, so, but
Whereas Kobe went with the 24 to try and one-up Jordan.
Yeah, that didn't
Yeah,
work out as well, but
I don't know. Personally, I think Kobe, if you're making the Kobe and Jordan comparison, I think that's a much closer comparison than is
LeBron or Curry.
and Jordan or Curry and
Yeah.
Jordan. They're both competitive to the point where it's almost sickening, I think, to be around them sometimes.
Yeah.
And success. Rings don't lie.
Yeah.
Kobe's got 5.
Bling, 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 bling.
And we were talking about it beforehand how, at least for me, it's a little unsettling to see Kobe just kind of riding off into the sunset and being happy, being okay with losing. Just growing up and watching him be that intense, competitive. How do you guys feel about that?
Sort of like Brett Favre, like when he kept trying to stay in it and just was like, all right, well, we're losing and stuff. I mean, he did have a playoff run when he went back to the Vikings and stuff, but I don't know, just seeing him.
that didn't need to happen though.
But it's just one of those, I would have been happy to see Kobe retire when he started getting these injuries, when he stopped playing how he used to play. I would have rather seen him go out on top than be with Nick Young and all them and just not doing anything in Los Angeles. He's sort of just
he doesn't
fizzling out.
have anything to be very sad about, because a fourth of his career was championships. And I think if you're going to look at it like that, and if you're going to be that successful in basketball right before Jordan, then what else can you be sad about?
Yeah.
And be like Kobe. I mean, he's meant so much to basketball, the international basketball as well, and just to the game and how it's supposed to be played, because you see all these younger generations looking up to Kobe all the time. And that competitiveness, I think, is trickled down definitely to the next generation of Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook,
Any of those
Kyle
guys.
Lowry. Any young player has definitely been influenced by Kobe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, I mean, Kobe's still getting his, make no doubt about that.
sure. Yeah.
He went for 35 a couple nights ago. Now, that was in a loss to the Heat where, the Lakers gave up 130.
Yeah.
So, they're not playing any defense. And they're not really trying to win games at this point. But
It's for Kobe.
Kobe's still getting
Yeah.
his.
Death by
They're getting
death
in
by
the ball
Kobe.
and,
Death by
you know.
Kobe.
I noticed a graphic the other day where Kobe crushed the 20th. If you're in your 20th season, the record for most points scored by 500 points or something. Just because he's still jacking up those shots.
Yeah.
But
Nothing's
if you're Kobe Bryant,
changed.
if you're Kobe Bryant, you're on a losing team. Might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to lose either way. Might as well
Yeah.
get yours.
Yeah, and by this time next week, he'll be retired. So
As long as he doesn't pull a Favre and try to come back.
I really hope.
I wouldn't mind if Kobe came back at all.
No, I think if
I
anything.
don't think it does it just justice to his, not that he's dead, but his memory,
His brand.
his basketball memory. I think
He's a Laker. I think being a Laker for his entire career means more to him than.
Which is why he's content with
Yeah.
just sort of riding it out, just
losing a few seasons instead of being a backup on a championship contender. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and move along again to soccer. Let's start off with the U.S. women's national team. They just beat, what was it? It was Guatemala? Colombia, sorry. One of those.
Good job.
And so they're, putting up the numbers, they're getting the wins, and like we were talking about last week, with all the just money and all that stuff, do you think that if they keep these wins up, make it into the World Cup and everything again, will that change anything, or?
What I've noticed is they've been really dialing back in the media about the lawsuit for sure. The last week, I remember last week, it was definitely a firestorm whenever they were talking about it, and it was in the midst of Abby Wambach and a DUI as well. Maybe if they keep on winning, I would hope they have a better chance of maybe getting the lawsuit noticed more. But what is really important right now is for that lawsuit to keep the traction that it had at first. Because I don't know because I think in the media we tend to get very forgetful of what has happened even a week or two ago, and we just lose fire or the passion that we have for wanting to back equal pay or whatever these women's issues have in soccer. So I think we should definitely back up these these women for the national team, but it'll be hard if they just keep on winning, keep on doing the same thing that they're always used to. So what do you think about that, Travis?
I mean, I think one of the best examples of inequality, at least in women's, international soccer, you look at their opponent, Colombia. Colombia, for the first time in their women's history, made a decent little run in the World Cup.
Yep.
I mean, that they showed some fire. They played pretty well. And then, since the end of the World Cup, I think it was in July, their women's national team, and I understand there's only so many international periods, but their women's national team didn't even schedule a game until just these 2 games they just played against the U.S. I mean, that's like inexcusable if you want to grow, the women's game worldwide in a soccer, crazed, Colombian country. It's examples of those kind of things that are happening worldwide that isn't growing the women's game. And I think the women's game at the international level still continues to need to grow because, internationally speaking, soccer has always obviously been more popular than here in the States. And then, we kind of got out to that early lead, so to speak, with women's soccer. But, now with more parity internationally, for the most part, you're still struggling with the same inequality issues, but now there's more parity. I think we can quickly lose that disadvantage. I think that needs to be one of the points made to, getting paid more, or at least, what they should be paid considering what they, earn for the country, is that we have a competitive advantage here. We have the best athletes at this level, and we need to continue doing this. And if to continue doing that, you have to give these people, the equality they deserve, because then you're going to have players like Sydney Leroux, who could have easily just played for Canada, but who, had, the dual citizenship, came and played for the States. Well, issues like this, you might not get those players, and that's become a real firestorm issue for particularly the men's side.
Do you think that parity makes the sport more popular or less popular? Like at least for the U.S. I know the U.S. always is a juggernaut whenever they're playing international or friendlies or anything. Do you think their dominance makes the sport almost less fun to watch?
Yeah, I kind of compare it to UConn basketball. To a lesser degree, because UConn basketball is
legendary
and kind of beyond what the women's national team is. But I think it's a fair comparison, because when I watch women's college basketball, I kind of tend to not think it matters, because I'm like, well, UConn, they're going to take it, when it matters. Now it's not quite like that, but when the U.S. is playing, frankly, even Colombia, who made a pretty decent little run, you have results like 7-0, 3-0. That game should be closer. So I think from a parity standpoint, internationally, it benefits the players, because the players, the people who are in charge there have to see that parity and see a reason that, equal pay, things of that nature are needful. However, from an American public perspective, we like to win. We don't deal with losing very well, particularly with the Olympics and anything of that nature. So, from that perspective, maybe not.
Well, see, I was going to say, we love winning, like you were saying, and the U.S. women's national team is usually just really strong contender and everything. Do you think that maybe, not playing, going on strike, doing something like that might change it? Because, the public will want to see them play, and, that might get a lot of people behind them if they're just we're not going to play.
Yeah, no,
we're not going to go into the cup.
That's what I'm in right now. It's one of those things. It sucks, and as a woman, I see a lot of this across everything. We're not always treated as fairly as would be nice, but they're not going to do something. The league itself is not going to do anything until they're hit in their wallets. That's what matters. The people on the top don't see, oh, they feel bad, or oh, they're upset. They see, how much money did I make because of advertising, because of sales at the stadiums, because of this, that, the other. The only way they're going to do anything is if the team, a majority of the team, starts either saying, we're not going to play, I'm going to go play for Canada, or I'm going to go play for, whatever else. That's the only time they're going to do anything.
Because they won't get
the public can moan and complain as much as they want, and the team can moan and complain as much as they want. the sad thing is, most, not all, but most of these higher up people are not going to care. They're not going to say, we're sorry you feel bad, here's have some money. They're going to say, well, I'm still making money, so you keep playing, you keep winning. Sorry.
The point you raised there is the portion that really kind of confuses me, because the attendance for most of the women's games is very comparable to most of the men's games. So for ticket sales, I mean, people are still drinking just as much beer at a women's game as they would a men's game.
Yeah.
So that right there, I mean, money-wise, I don't know why there is that divide, because even if the men's, I don't have their financial statements in front of me, but even if the men's team does, make marginally more, just looking strictly at ticket sales and things of that nature, the divide could not be that wide.
My guess, though, is that it probably is wider than anticipated, mostly because of advertising. Because if you compare just on the amount of advertising you see as a just regular person for men's versus women's soccer, I mean, how many David Beckham, underwear advertisements, random things.
But that's David Beckham. I don't see Clint Dempsey saying my underwear. I don't see DeAndre Yedlin selling me my underwear. But I do see Alex Morgan selling me my Wheaties. I mean things of that nature. So again, I don't understand here, because as American soccer fans, the women's team should be. I want them to do well too, but that should be where we put our weight behind.
They should,
again,
but
puzzles me.
Yeah.
Not sure.
And we'll keep up with this, for the next few episodes, but we do have to call it here. So as always, I'd like to invite you to leave your questions, comments, concerns at www.watchapptv.com. And until next time, I'm Robin Palmer.